What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Week 4 Studs and Duds. We're a little late this week, so we're going to get right into it, reviewing each game, talking about whose stock is rising, who's falling, based on what we saw on film this week. Before we get into the games, our star of the week, at the same week that EA has raised Khalil Mack to a 99 overall, I have done the same. The man has just been the best defensive player in football, arguably the best player in football overall this year. He has sparked this Bears defense to be arguably the best defense in the NFL. He seems to be forcing a fumble every week. He's even playing well in coverage. This is going to go down as one of the biggest burglary heists in the history of this league. The fact that the Bears were able to acquire this player like 4 days before the season started is just remarkable. But I think well deserving of the quote-unquote 99 club. Just killing it this year. And for the first time ever, I actually feel pretty confident saying I would rather have Khalil Mack than Von Miller, whereas in the past I leaned Von Miller. You know, Von Miller is outstanding, don't get me wrong, but he wore down in that game against the Chiefs and was not there to close the game out, something that Khalil Mack has been doing this year, closing games late in the fourth quarter. So anyway, let's keep moving here. The dud of the week, someone that Eagles fans just want gone at this point. Jalen Mills, the dud of the week. He's going to go down 2 this week. He really has struggled in coverage all year. And this is a player that Philadelphia really needed to step up. You know, this secondary was, we knew going into the year, going to be the weakness. And we looked at Jalen Mills as a guy that we thought, maybe he could take a step up and solidify the secondary a little bit, and it's gone the other way. I would think he might even be at jeopardy of losing his starting job. He is playing very poorly this year. Still has some physical talent, could still turn this thing around, but it's not looking good for Mr. Mills. So now time to break down the games. We're going to start with the Thursday night game. This was a really exciting game. The Vikings at the Rams. Just a shootout. On the Viking side, you're concerned about this defense right now. They have a ton of mental mistakes. I don't really understand what they're doing here. Defensively, they've got Anthony Barr covering receivers. I know that their corners are a weakness, the depth at corners, so they don't really trust like Mackenzie Alexander to cover guys like Cooper Kupp. But I don't think the answer is putting a 255-pound linebacker on him either, who I already think is overrated, but that's just unfair to Anthony Barr to put him in that situation. Offensively, the Vikings are clicking. I'm still worried, though, because they have allowed a record-breaking amount of pressures this year. I think they've already allowed 130 pressures. That's ridiculous. The NFL average last year was 250 on the season. We're through 4 games. They're on pace for like 600 pressures. The offensive line's got some stuff to figure out, but Kirk Cousins played great. Those receivers are great. And then you look on the Rams side, the defense showed some weaknesses. I've never really loved this defense. I think, obviously you had Talib and Peters out, and that's a core part of this defense. But when the offense is clicking like it is right now, it doesn't even matter if you have a terrible defense, an average defense, or a great defense. I think when all is said and done, the Rams have an above-average defense. But offensively, Jared Goff looks great. He is accurate, showing better arm strength than I ever knew he had. These receivers are just running free all over the field. Just a well-oiled machine from quarterback to receiver to obviously the play calling. And the Rams, of course, my number 1 team in the power rankings right now. So the studs and duds from this game, it's all on the Rams side. If I were to lower anyone on the Viking side, it would be the corners, but I already, kind of thought they were a little overrated to begin with, so I don't want to go too far there. But for the Rams, we got Jared Goff going up +1 this week. So he is now entering kind of that top 14 range of quarterbacks. He's really impressing me right now. I've kind of pinned him as the next Matt Ryan, but I think he's showing much better downfield accuracy, much better control of the football than Matt Ryan, and his ceiling could be very high. And I could end up being wrong about Jared Goff's ceiling. But on the other hand, it's a little hard to evaluate it when everything is right in front of him. I still don't love him when he does actually get rushed. In this Vikings game, he had all day to throw. So he is going to go up +1 this week for the second week in a row. Then we got Cooper Kupp +1. He went off. John Franklin Myers had the sack to close that game, but he has been playing well this year. He's getting a lot more playing time than I thought he would. He's a bit of a tweener type, edge. interior line guy who I thought coming from a smaller school was going to have a slow transition in the NFL. Maybe year 2, year 3 he makes an impact, but he's coming in right away playing well. And then Corey Littleton has kind of established himself as their starting linebacker, and he'll probably continue to go up if he continues to play well. Next up, we've got the Dolphins at Patriots game. Really, all I can say about this is, Dolphins fans, I hate to say I told you so, but I was not buying this team for one reason and one reason only. Ryan Tannehill was embarrassing in this game. Just 100 passing yards. Everything I said about him on third down held up. He doesn't extend plays. If his first read's there, just forget about it. Yeah, he can throw deep occasionally. So can every quarterback in the NFL. He's one of the 4 worst starters in the league right now. I think Miami seriously needs to consider moving on in the draft this year. Miami's defense, I thought, was actually still pretty good in this game, to be honest. I think they have a very solid defense, but they were on the field the entire game. And then the Patriots are doing exactly what we kind of thought they would. The same thing they've done the last few years. Slow start to September. Bill Belichick has even said that he doesn't care what happens in September. And sure enough, comes out week 4, takes care of business at home, and the Patriots are back on track. It just magically figures out what was like the worst defense in the NFL. He just figures out how to hold this team to 7 points, despite not really having any talent in their front 7 at all. And then offensively, Tom Brady's going to do his thing. Josh Gordon's starting to click a little bit. Got Julian Edelman back, so things are looking good for the Patriots. And then studs and duds this week. Kenyon Drake is going to go down 1, just not getting utilized. Miami not showing their trust in him. It's not even that he's looked so bad when he's been out there. It's just his lack of production is really concerning. He had to come down from that 80 mark. No fault for Ryan Tannehill. We already had him rated really low. I thought he was exactly what I've kind of graded him out to be to this point. But then we do have a stud on the Patriots side, Philip Dorsett. Really good game. Really coming into his own role in this Patriots offense. Former first-round pick starting to show us some flashes of why he was there, though I don't think he's ever going to be, a complete stud, but a very good, role player for this team right now. Next up, we got the Bills at Packers. For the Bills, they are returning to that sort of train wreck status. I think defensively they have stepped up from what they were the first 6 quarters of football, but offensively, this is probably the worst offense in the NFL. While I have said that I like Josh Allen on this channel, he showed pretty much all of his bad traits in this game. He was inaccurate, terrible decisions, indecisive. In this game, he looked like the raw quarterback that a lot of people wanted to stay away from. So a big step back for Josh Allen, who looked great the week before. That said, he has just no help. Watching that game is like, who is he supposed to throw to? Like, no one's open, no one can catch, no one can block for him. It's just an impossible situation. And then on the Green Bay side, they basically just won this game with defense up front. Kenny Clark was dominant in this game. They were getting after Josh Allen on every single snap. They stopped the run. But then offensively, really not clicking right now, this Green Bay offense. Rodgers is starting to get healthier. He looked a little better this week, I thought, in terms of his mobility, but still not comfortable back there. This was one of the worst games I've ever seen from Rodgers. He was inaccurate. Pretty indecisive, honestly. So I think it's a combination of him not trusting these receivers right now, but just also not having confidence in his own body right now. I think Green Bay's offense is going to figure some things out as the season goes on. So studs and duds from this game. On the Buffalo side, we've got Ryan Lewis, a corner that I believe they picked up from the Patriots in the cuts from the preseason. He has been starting the last few weeks and actually playing pretty well. So he deserved a bump here, +3, getting closer to that starting caliber range. And then a couple risers for the Packers. Kenny Clark has been really killing it all year, but this game was a statement game for him, I thought. So he's going to go up 1. He's starting to show more on the pass rush front, which he started to do in the last quarter of last season. Really came on as a pass rushing interior guy, whereas before that he had really just kind of made a name for himself as a run defender, but now becoming that dual threat and is probably the best player on that side of the ball for this defense. And then Jaire Alexander getting a +1 as well. I was actually lower on Jaire coming out. I had a second round grade on him. I thought he was pretty raw, but he is playing really well. He's the second highest rated rookie corner, according to PFF. Had another good game this week, so he's going to get a little love there. Next, we've got Tampa Bay at Chicago. For Tampa, the Fitzmagic is over. We're back to the Jameis Winston era, and this defense proved yet again that it is just terrible. And then for Chicago, it's a big statement game for them. We knew that defense was good, but to see the offense put up points like that, granted against a really bad defensive performance, but just to see that they have that in them, to get some more confidence for Trubisky, to get him to actually look downfield a little more, which has been a problem for him. This Bears team is starting to become a serious contender in the NFC. We'll see how they follow up offensively coming off the bye against some better defenses. But the studs and duds from this one, we got Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to go back down just one, losing a bit of that magic. And then the two edge rushers for Tampa Bay, Jason Pierre-Paul and Vinny Curry, are going to drop. Tampa has just had no edge rush. The investment that they've made in these two guys specifically just not working out right now. And then you flip over to the other side, we mentioned Khalil Mack, the star of the week, +3. Obviously a collection of everything he's done this year, but this was really the week where, I was like, why would I not have him as a 99? He's the best defensive player in football right now. But other risers for Chicago as well. Bilal Nichols, a raw freak athlete, interior guy that Chicago added later in the draft, and he's making a big impact on this defense. His PFF ratings are off the charts. He's probably benefiting from Khalil Mack, just as the rest of this defense is, but he has been impressive out of Delaware. Some of the things he's doing actually remind me a little bit of Chris Jones for Kansas City. And then Mitch Trubisky is going to get a boost this week. We had lowered him earlier this year because he really struggled early. So, I liked what I saw. He made 4 or 5 just wow throws in this game, but he also had a ton of open receivers all day to throw. It's basically a pro day for him. So give him some credit, but I need to see more from him before I'm ready to write off how bad he looked in the first few weeks. And then Charles Leno, the left tackle here, continues to develop. A guy who has cemented himself as a starting left tackle for this team, continuing to just get better and better, playing like one of the best tackles in football this year, doing a great job protecting Trubisky's backside. Next, we've got the Texans at the Colts. This was a really exciting game. Miraculous comeback by Andrew Luck, falls short, but was definitely a fun game to watch. Deshaun Watson played very well on the Houston side. They got that offense going really for the first time this year. Defensively, Houston came out really strong, but a little worried about how they really dropped off in the second half. J.J. Watt, was he fatigued? Did he think they had the game in the bag? He dominated early, same with Clowney, but then you couldn't find him in the fourth quarter or in overtime. But a great game for Houston. They pick up a big win in Indianapolis. For the Colts, the defense took a step back. These kind of games will happen. I still think they are a decent defense, and offensively, I think this was a big statement for Andrew Luck to say, hey, don't forget about me. I can still be that guy who leads my team back against all odds. Now, it ended up not working because of overtime, and they go for it on 4th down. Texans just need to complete a slant, and they get the field goal for the win. But you like the confidence that they are putting in Luck. He's starting to look more and more like his old self. So let's get into the studs and duds here. Deshaun Watson is going to go up 1 this week. Really, his best game of the year. Started to show a little bit more of why we were so excited about him coming into this year. Kiki Kuti, speedy, shifty little slot guy. Had like 11 catches in this game. He's getting a +1 because he's so involved here, but I wasn't necessarily impressed by what he did. Then we got Danico Autry for the Colts. He's gone up once already this year, and he's going to go up again this week. Was really the biggest impact defender for the Colts in this game. And then Nyheim Hines, kind of breaking out in this game, really basically a receiver that's playing running back, but made some spectacular catches, showed off some shiftiness, was really involved in the offense this week. He's going to get a +2. Zach Pascal, total no-name receiver who's been the Colts' best receiver outside of T.Y. Hilton, at least in this game. So he's going to get a +3 into relevancy. And then LaRaven Clark, who started at left tackle in this game, actually did a really good job in this game. He's a guy that I had kind of written off. He's had his chances in the past, but he's kind of playing like a new man and someone that this Colts team can plug in at either tackle spot. We'll see what they ended up doing with him once Costanzo actually gets healthy here. So let's move on to our next game. We've got the Jets at the Jags. Jags taking care of business at home, showing off that good defense yet again. The Jets just not a complete football team. They've got some players at certain positions, but just not a very coherent team right now. They don't have an identity. They don't have really any consistent playmakers. They're probably a year plus away from being relevant. But I did think Sam Darnold actually looked pretty good in this game, all things considered. He was constantly under pressure. He made a few throws in this game that were just wow throws. On the move, accurate, downfield. He did throw another interception in this game that was called back because of a defensive holding. So you still got that element to his game, but I thought Darnold held his own in this one. For the Jags, Blake Bortles played pretty well. The offense did enough, and then the defense was lights out. I thought Jacksonville kind of played like we knew them to be. So risers and fallers here, we've got Jordan Leggett for the Jets. Made some real nice plays in this one. Starting to get involved in what's kind of like a 3, maybe even 4-headed monster at tight end for the Jets, even though it's not much of a monster. I don't love any of those guys specifically. But then Robbie Anderson continues to disappoint for the Jets. A lot of high hopes for him this year, and he just has not lived up to them at all. D.D. Westbrook on the Jags side, he's going to go up 1. Looks really good with the ball in his hands. Really tough guy to cover on those crossing drag routes that Jacksonville is really making a living off of this year. And then Josh Wells at left tackle. He has filled in for Cam Robinson and honestly has played better than Cam Robinson at that position, particularly in pass protection. Veteran guy playing at a really high level at tackle right now. So really excited to see this Jags team go into Kansas City this week. And if they win that one, I might change my tone on this Jags team, but this was definitely a game they should have won. So next we've got a thriller here that was the Eagles at the Titans. Statement win for Tennessee in this game. Mariota looked really nice coming off that weird injury. He looked closer to 100%, if not all the way back. For the Eagles, they just aren't back yet. And I don't think they will get all the way back to that high, coherent level that they were at when they won the Super Bowl, but I do think it's still going to be a really good team by the end of the year. Really big game this week against Minnesota, but they got some questions on that defensive side of the ball. The secondary is not playing very well right now. The pass rush has not been what it was last year either. And then offensively, they just don't have a ton of weapons right now. You know, getting Jeffrey back is nice, but he's not really a guy that creates a ton of separation. Nelson Aguilar is playing like garbage this year. The offensive line has not played as well as I think they're very capable of playing. I think Carson Wentz has looked pretty good. But then on Tennessee's side, this defense is really establishing itself as a serious defense. The pass rush is really underrated. The secondary is playing all right. But then you factor in offensively how they've been able to get some things going. You know, Corey Davis getting involved in this offense alone just gives this offensive passing game someone that defenses have to focus on. So that's big, but they have not been able to run the ball as well as I thought they would be able to run. So a big win for Tennessee, a big statement win. I love going for it on 4th down and overtime. Mariota makes some really nice plays to win this game. Definitely came away impressed by that team. So the studs and duds this week. Nelson Aguilar, we already mentioned him. He's going to go down 1. Really not playing well at all. He's looked a lot more like his old self, not the 2017 Nelson Aguilar that kind of broke out. So they got to find a way to get him back to that level. Jalen Mills was our dud of the week. So a couple fallers for the passing game for the Eagles. And then on the Tennessee side, Harold Landry looking like a guy that should have been a top 10 pick all along. Just the bend around the edge. Great closing speed to contain on the edge. If you're not familiar with Harold Landry, get used to that name because he's going to be one of the premier edge players in this league, I think, for the next 10 years. Then Jayon Brown has done a real nice job establishing himself as a cover guy for this Tennessee team. It's kind of interesting what they've got going on here. So they draft Rashaan Evans in the first round. He kind of makes his first impact this game. Wesley Woodyard is kind of getting phased out here, or he's injured. I'm not sure what's going on. I think he played like 2 snaps this week. Maybe he got hurt and I missed it. But really, of those 3, Jayon Brown has been the most versatile of the 3. He's a mid-round pick, athletic guy last year who really struggled early on, but he's coming into his own here. And then Corey Davis is going to get a +1. Really came on in the playoffs last year. Got off to a slow start because of the quarterback situation here, but kind of getting that first week here with a healthy Marcus Mariota, can kind of see the impact he is making for this team. Next game, Cincinnati at Atlanta. Really, really fun game to watch. This was a huge game for Andy Dalton. I can't remember a win this big for Andy Dalton, at least in the regular season. He has like 2 minutes left, down by 8, and how often have we seen Andy Dalton come up short in that situation, on the road nonetheless? And he pulls it off, converts a few fourth downs, just a huge game for Dalton. And this is an offense that has all the weapons, but if Dalton can play like that, then this is a playoff team, I think, in Cincinnati. Defensively, Cincinnati is fine. This isn't a defense that's going to come into Atlanta, who's arguably the best offense when they get to play at home. And, this isn't a Cincinnati defense that's really equipped to handle that. Very few defenses are equipped to handle that. But on the Atlanta side, I just mentioned how good that offense has been. Matt Ryan might even be due for some praise depending how he looks having to go on the road in Pittsburgh this week. We'll see. But this defense is just so concerning. And I think Atlanta's done. They just have lost so many pieces. So it's a bummer for Atlanta. They're still a fun team to watch. They're going to get into a ton of shootouts, but I think it's going to be all for naught. Just too many injuries. So studs and duds this week, we got Andy Dalton. Going to go up +1 this week. He's really played well all year, but like I said, this was a statement win, doing something that I can't remember him going on the road and winning a game like that. And then speaking of this Cincinnati offense, how about Tyler Boyd coming on this year? He's getting better every single week. He's going to get another +1 this week for like the 3rd week in a row. And it seems he's finally reaching that potential that he had as a 2nd-round pick several years ago. So our next game here, Detroit at Dallas. Both these teams, I thought, played really well. This was a must-win game, I think, in the eyes of both of these teams. And it came down to the wire. Detroit leads the comeback. They leave too much time on the clock for Dallas to with Dak to lead a great drive to go score a field goal there and take the lead. But Detroit's offense has impressed me. They just have so many weapons right now. The offensive line playing pretty well. Stafford. Defensively, they are so average. Like, literally nothing really noteworthy about Detroit other than Darius Slay is possibly the best corner in the NFL. Other than him, it's just a bunch of dudes. And then on Dallas's side, they finally mixed up their game plan and just went through Zeke, which is what they should have been doing from the get-go, but it worked. And Zeke was impressive in this game, just took over and really looked like one of the premier game-changing players in this league, which is not easy to do as a running back. And they flexed him out wide. They were throwing him the ball. Just great game plan offensively. And then defensively, they just kind of have scattered playmakers here. Leighton Vander Esch looked really good in this game. Byron Jones continues to play well. I don't hate this Dallas defense. I don't think it's like a top 10 defense or anything, but I think they can do some things. So stock kind of up for both of these teams after this game. I came away impressed by both teams. Kenny Golladay is going to go up as far as our studs and duds. He is really emerging. And, I've always been a Kenny Golladay guy, but at some point it kind of stops being a gimmick, where he goes from someone that was really exciting coming out, made some spark plays, and you can kind of see that potential. And then there's the moment when he kind of flips the switch, and it's like, okay, this is one of the best receivers in the NFL right now. He's possibly the best playmaker they have. And Marvin Jones is actually going to go down this week. Not that he's playing terrible, but he just has not been playing anywhere close to the season he had last year. And the gap between Kenny Golladay is closing very fast, if not already closed. Kenny Golladay is the future here. There are moments when he looks like Calvin Johnson. Just big, fast, great hands, everything you want in a wide receiver. So probably not the first time Kenny Golladay is going to go up this year. This was probably overdue. I think I wanted to wait one more week before I raised him, just in case I had any bias in favor of Kenny Golladay, because he's kind of been one of my guys. But really impressive. Great trio of wide receivers. Golden Tate playing at a very high level this year as well. And then also going up for Detroit is going to be Deshaun Hand. Also notable, I had to add 15 pounds to him in Madden and switch him from D-end to interior D-tackle. Had not even noticed that he put on some weight since the draft and has become an interior guy. And it's paying off for him because he's playing really well, particularly rushing the passer from the interior, but playing the run as well. So he's going to go up +2 this week. Just another good Alabama D lineman in the NFL. And then for Dallas, we mentioned LVE, the rookie linebacker. Really big game for him. With Sean Lee out, Vander Esch is really stepping up. He looked really good this week. Was probably the best player on defense for Dallas in this entire game. And then Joe Looney, the center filling in for Travis Frederick, has actually done a pretty good job there, but he had an excellent game this week. Not just coordinating a good run game on the inside for Zeke, but getting him out in space, running screens, just moving downfield, looked really athletic. Not too often you actually notice the center downfield doing that kind of thing, and he stood out. Next, we've got what might have been the most fun game to watch all week, the Browns at the Raiders. Who would have thunk it? But the Browns exploding offensively against this abysmal Raiders defense. Baker making his first start in the NFL. Made some really nice throws, but also overthrew some guys deep, had some pretty bad decisions, a few turnovers, especially late in that game, the interception where they really only needed like 2 slants to get in field goal range, but he decides to take a deep shot, throws it into double coverage, bad throw, game goes to overtime, but he definitely didn't fold in his first road NFL start. Browns defensively took a step back. This is, I think, just the NFL we live in. You can have a really good defense and give up a ton of points some weeks. It just happens. It's really hard to play defense against these high-octane offenses with the rules nowadays. I mean, we've seen it over the last couple of years. Like, look at Jacksonville last year. You have 45 points to the 49ers. So I still think it's a solid Browns defense, just a hiccup this week. And then on the Raiders side, offensively, they're fun to watch. Derek Carr was really good in this game outside of one really bad mistake. Marshawn Lynch had an excellent week. This offensive line playing pretty well. They've got enough weapons on the outside with Jordy Nelson playing well, but man, defensively, it's so hard to watch this team. They have no pass rush. They can't stop the run. Their coverage unit's terrible. They have such a lack of talent. And the player who you would think would be the most explosive defensive player on their team has totally dropped off. Bruce Irvin, he played 30% of snaps this week. Like, this team has nobody, especially with Carl Joseph injured. Leon Hall is actually a freaking starter for this team. Like, just think about that for a second. It's like 40 years old, was just cut by the Giants starting at nickel corner for this team. So all things considered, I think Gruden's actually doing a good job with this offense, and he's doing what he can with his defense, but it's tough. So while I don't think either of these are playoff teams, they're both pretty fun teams to watch. Risers and fallers then is going to be Desmond Harrison, actually continuing to surprise at left tackle for Cleveland. I had no idea why they were starting him to begin with, but they seem to have known what they were doing there. This guy is undersized, but he's athletic. He's doing a great job in pass protection, especially since Baker got in there. He's been lights out. Granted, against the Jets and the Raiders, who don't exactly have premier edge rushers, so we'll see how he handles Terrell Suggs this week. Bit of a climate change there. But then Demarius Randall, who was acquired in a trade for Deshaun Kaiser with Green Bay, getting more comfortable playing free safety in the NFL. It was kind of his natural position, and he looks real good back there. So he's going to go up +1 again this week. And then for the Raiders, just one faller here. It is Bruce Irvin, who we talked about. Kind of an afterthought on this team. Getting up there in age, he played less than Arden Key and Frosty Rucker this week. Just not really a guy that is doing a whole lot for this defense. Next, we got the Seahawks at the Cardinals. On Seattle side, they tough out the win. It was crazy how much Russell Wilson was like downfield blocking in this game. There's 2 or 3 plays where he was like creating blocks downfield off of read options. But that was about as fun as this game got. Seattle ran the ball a ton. Mike Davis looked pretty good. I thought Rashad Penny actually looked pretty good when they used them with Chris Carson out. Defensively for Seattle, they're playing Arizona, so take it with a grain of salt, but they played pretty well. You got the Earl Thomas situation. That just sucks. Everything about it. He was about a week away from getting traded and then getting paid, and, he breaks his leg. I think he'll still make a lot of money. Broken bones recover pretty nice with modern medicine. So I think Earl Thomas will be all right, but it sucks nonetheless. And then on Arizona's side, Josh Rosen impressed this week. I mean, they had no blocking. These receivers stink, man. Even Larry Fitzgerald let Josh Rosen down this week. So this team just doesn't have enough talent offensively to really contend in any regard this year, but you are definitely encouraged by what you saw by Josh Rosen, who looked very competent in this game, and that's an understatement. I mean, he was a few drops away from having a real nice statistical game, but on film, he looked nice. And then defensively for Arizona, it's really not a defense worth talking about. You basically have Chandler Jones and Patrick Peterson, who are premier players, and then a bunch of nobodies. Budda Baker's a nice player, but it's just not a super exciting defense. But I think they're well coached. I think they get a spark from those two stars, but it's just somewhere between the 16th and 24th best defense in the NFL probably, and it's just not really worth noting. So we got 4 studs and duds this week. Trey Flowers for Seattle was drafted as a safety at Oklahoma State. Seattle saw him as a corner. He's 6'3", 200. I thought he was going to be too stiff to play corner, but he had a really good game this week. We'll see how he continues to look. It's not like he's going up against real high caliber receivers this week. But then Josh Rosen for Arizona, he's going to get a +1 up to a 73. I would expect if he continues to look like this, he's going to shoot up pretty quick to get up there pretty close to those other rookie quarterbacks. And then Larry Fitzgerald is going to come down 1, all-time great wide receiver, but has not been able to separate for the last 2 years, and that hasn't changed this year, but not winning as many contested ball situations, seems to have lost another half step or so. Really not playing well this year. Has not been a reliable weapon for this offense at all. Nothing against Larry Fitzgerald. He's a 35-year-old wide receiver. Has had an amazing career, but it does seem to be the beginning of the end right now for Larry. And then Justin Pugh going to come down again for the second time this year. Real disappointing last season for the Giants. Hits free agency. Arizona opens up the bag for him, and he continues to disappoint this offensive line that's been terrible all around the board, but he's not helping. So that's it for that game. Next, we've got the 49ers at Chargers game. This was about the most scripted Chargers game you can imagine. You had, I think, 3 missed field goals for the Chargers, 2 field goals, 1 extra point, I believe, maybe 2 extra points, could be getting that wrong. You get the pick 6 right off the bat. So the 49ers come out early, and the Chargers were clearly the better game in this one. There was really never any doubt that they were going to come back from a deficit and win this game, but they didn't do themselves any favor with stupid mistakes. Vegas gives them 10 points in this game, and I don't think anyone's going to take the Chargers with that many points, knowing that they're going to give away 8 points every week like they've done for the last 2 years. It's just inexplicable. It's week after week we're talking about mental mistakes for this Chargers team. I was impressed by CJ Beathard. He played much better than I thought he would. The 49ers overall putting up more fight than I thought they would without Jimmy this week. But the Chargers kind of lucking out here with a pretty easy stretch of games until they can hopefully get Joey Bosa back. I think things are actually looking pretty optimistic for this Chargers team after surviving a couple close wins in a row. My last note is there was clearly more 49ers fans at this game at the soccer stadium than Chargers fans. It had to be at least 75%. So the studs and duds this week, CJ Beathard, like we said, he's going to go up 2 from 61 to a 63, especially as the game went on. He was getting comfortable. He was extending plays. Looked actually pretty mobile. Showed some pretty good arm strength as well. So he just kind of impressed overall. I don't think he's going to go and be like a starting quarterback, but it does seem like a guy that you can rely on as a backup. Could be a really solid career backup. Josh McCown, Ryan Fitzpatrick type. And then George Kittle. I wasn't sure if he was going to continue to impress without his quarterback, but he doubled down and just went off. And it's kind of hard to make an argument that says George Kittle hasn't been the best tight end in football for the first 4 weeks. He is fast. He is blocking very well. Great with the ball in his hands. He's got safe hands. Looks like Travis Kelce out there. So he's going to go up 2 this week. He's already gone up, 6 overall this year through 4 weeks. So we'll see how much he can continue to impress, but he's doing a good job of it right now. Marcus Goodwin, he's going to come down. Just a disappointing season all around. I know he got hurt, but pretty high expectations here. Just coming down to earth a little bit. Was definitely not playing at the level I had him ranked at. And then Derwin James, he's going to get a +1 this week. He's been playing well all year. It's about time to give him a little love, but really no surprise to see him going off. And then Sam Tevy has filled in at both right tackle and left tackle for this Chargers team. Good to see some good depth there for this Chargers team that's, has a history of dealing with injuries, and Tevy proving he can play in a pinch. So moving on, we've got the Saints at the Giants. Giants played pretty well in this one, but just eventually could not keep pace with the Saints. Been saying that, this Giants offense has shown some nice things. Eli will look good on one drive, but just with that offensive line and how inconsistent Eli is throwing the football, you just can't trust them from drive to drive. When you're going up against an offense like the Saints, who more often than not are going to score points on every possession, you just get overwhelmed, and that's exactly what happened here. And yet again, the Giants at home, their defense is super average, no one really worth noting, and the Saints slowly, week by week, returning a little closer to what we thought they were coming into the year after taking a huge step back week 1. So our studs and duds of the week, we got Von Bell, defensive back for the Saints there. He's playing very well this year, versatile safety. But then a couple fallers for this Saints defense that has disappointed this year, and it's the 2 rookie D-backs from last year who were still rated very high, basically were rated for what they were doing last year, and they are not repeating right now. And that's not to say they can't get back to that level, but just coming down to earth a little bit. Marcus Williams, Marshawn Lattimore, neither of these guys having very good seasons at all. I still believe in the talent there. And then a rookie here, Will Hernandez, going up for the Giants. Definitely looking like a guard that probably should have gone in the first round. Not just doing a good job run blocking, but a question for him was going to be how does he fare against bigger defensive tackles in pass pro, and he's killing it. He's actually playing much better through the first month of the year than Quentin Nelson. So Hernandez is going to get a bump up this week. And we've got just 2 games left here. So Baltimore at Pittsburgh. Baltimore looking serviceable again on offense, though against this Pittsburgh defense, I don't know how impressive that actually is. But regardless, a really big statement win by the Ravens. Clearly the best team between these two, probably in this division. Hard to say between them and Cincinnati. It's pretty close, but Pittsburgh just has not figured things out right now. Defensively, they're a mess. They're an absolute wreck. They have no pass rush. Their corners stink. Their linebackers stink. And then offensively, I like James Conner, but it's a huge drop-off in the run game and how much Le'Veon Bell opens everything up for this offense. This has been far from the offense we know they have the potential to reach with all the weapons and the offensive line here. So I do think they will get back to that when Le'Veon Bell returns. But in this game, Baltimore was definitely the better team. They went into Pittsburgh's home and really kicked their ass. So a lot of players to talk about here in terms of studs and duds. We got Brandon Carr. He's going to go up +1, the veteran corner for Baltimore, playing at a very high level right now. Be interesting to see what role he takes with Jimmy Smith coming off of suspension this week, because Marlon Humphrey has been pretty sustainable there at corner as well. So corner not an issue for Baltimore right now. Neither is tight end, as Max Williams, 2nd round pick, go Gophers, from a couple of years ago. A seriously injury-plagued career, but he's been healthy this year, and he's getting involved in the pass game a lot. He's taken a lot of reps, was basically the starter in this game. So he's starting to reach his potential a little bit. A really loaded group of tight ends here, as this team kind of doubled down on tight ends in the draft this year. We know Flacco likes throwing to those tight ends, so good to see that. And then John Brown is finally going to get a little love here. He had another good game here against Pittsburgh. So +2 for John Brown. He has been that deep threat that they've been looking for since Torrey Smith left here. And he's filling in that role very nicely. He's a great complement with Joe Flacco, and has been a big reason this offense has returned to being serviceable, which is really all they need with this defense. And then on the Pittsburgh side, we got a riser here, Sean Davis. He's gone up once already this year, but he's looking good. He's looking like a man out to prove that he can play in this league. Freak athlete, has really struggled the first couple years, but is coming along here in, I believe, his 3rd season. Doing a good job as kind of that center fielder, but he'll also come up and play in the box a little bit if you need him. But some fallers for this Pittsburgh defense as well. Joe Hayden has been a guy that opposing teams are actually targeting this year, has not had a good year. Still a pretty heady player, a veteran guy. Not going to make a ton of mistakes, but just physically limited right now. And it's clearly affecting his ability in coverage. And then TJ Watt, just a disappointing year all year. And we said last week that if TJ Watt disappoints again this week, that he's going to come down. And that's what's happening here. You know, he's a great athlete. He does some nice things when you drop him into coverage. He can clean up the mess pretty well. But in terms of beating his man one-on-one, he's got a long way to go. He doesn't really have any finesse to his game. He'll try to overpower you, but he's not an overpowering guy. He's more of a guy that could beat you off of quickness, but he doesn't use it very well. So TJ Watt definitely taking a step back this year after having some really high expectations heading into the year. Thought he would develop much better than he has. And then our last game of the week here, Kansas City at Denver. What a game this one was. Denver really in control for the first 3 quarters of this game. We were starting to think, okay, Patrick Mahomes is still really good, obviously, but he looks human at least. Fourth quarter happens. Denver's defense looks tired. Von Miller's signaling to come off the field. And all of a sudden, here comes Patrick Mahomes, takes over the game-winning drive, converts a 4th down, throwing the ball left-handed. Like, the guy is just ridiculous right now. So, disappointing loss for Denver. This would have been a statement win for them. Instead, it turns into a statement win for the Chiefs, who get a big division win on the road this week. Studs and duds from this one. On the Kansas City side, Dee Ford is going to come up. Looks like a man that is playing for his contract and a player that we knew had a ton of potential, as we've seen it in years past, but really disappointing the last probably 20 games or so of his career before the season started. But he's playing real well this year. He's getting back to that, high-end number 2 caliber edge rusher with the potential of a number 1 because of that speed and bend he has around the edge. So he's a guy that's probably looking at a pretty decent payday this offseason. Real quick note, it's a really good year for teams looking for edge help. Could potentially have Dee Ford here, Dante Fowler. It's a really good class of edge rushers in the draft. We'll see what happens with Jadeveon Clowney. So it could be a pretty big market this year for these edge rushers. But then Patrick Mahomes is going to come up one this week. A combination of what he did this week and last week definitely warranting it. Probably going to keep going up as every week he continues to play well, proving that he is one of the premier quarterbacks in this league. The ceiling is literally out of this world for Patrick Mahomes. He is on just ridiculous paces right now. But we saw sort of this with Deshaun Watson. Now, obviously, Watson wasn't doing the things that Patrick Mahomes was doing. I think Mahomes' success is much more sustainable in terms of what he's doing from the pocket, the throws he's making, his accuracy. There really is no reason Patrick Mahomes couldn't be the best quarterback in this league in a year based on everything he's showing. But he's only had like 5 starts, and I've already got him ranked as the 12th best quarterback in the NFL. So it's just crazy. I hate to be overreactive, but it's also hard not to just love what he's doing. His film is just insane. If you want to be critical of him, he maybe holds the ball a little too long. He still misses some throws that he should probably hit if he wants to be a top 5 elite quarterback. But, I mean, God, those are pretty nitpicky things compared to, like, Blake Bortles, who you can't trust to throw a slant. So one more riser here for the Chiefs, Demetrius Harris. We knew he's a freak athlete, can get involved in the receiving game, but really impressed with his blocking grades this year. So he's going to get a +2, becoming a more versatile tight end. He's like 6'7", 230. And then on the Denver side, Connor McGovern, a guard here who already went up once this year and continue to impress, helping out that run game, where we're also going to get some boosts here to the running backs, Royce Freeman, Phillip Lindsay. Both these guys going up +2. And both of these guys really complement each other well. Freeman being the power guy, Lindsay being basically the Dion Lewis here, who can catch the ball to the backfield, is sneaky good running between the tackles, runs with more power than you would think. So a good combo here for Denver. Denver just really has a ton of playmakers. You got 2 running backs and like 3 good wide receivers. Ideally, you would have Fumagalli and Jake Butt as a couple good tight ends, but they're both injured. But yeah, that is the studs and duds of the week. If you made it this far, you might as well hit that like button, guys. It helps me out more than you know. Let me know in the comments below if there's anyone you think I may have forgotten to talk about here. Have a good weekend. And cheers as always, guys. We'll see you next time.